Imagine you are 9 years old. Your father has just been poisoned by your enemies. Your own tribe, the people who were supposed to protect you, abandon your family in the middle of the Mongolian steppe and leave you all to die. Your mother is now raising 7 children alone in one of the most unforgiving landscapes on Earth. There is no food, there is no shelter, there is no future. And then it gets worse. At age 16, the one person you love most in the world, your wife, is kidnapped by a rival tribe and taken away in the night. And then, at age 20, you are betrayed by your own allies, captured in a raid, locked in a wooden collar called a Cangue, and sold into slavery. This is not a fictional character. This is the early life of the man who would one day conquer more land than any human being in history. His name was Temujin. The world would come to know him as Genghis Khan. And what happened between that wooden slave collar and the throne of the largest empire ever built is the most extraordinary comeback story humanity has ever witnessed. Welcome back. Today we are going deep into one of the most jaw-dropping stories ever told. Not in a movie, not in a novel, but in real history. Most people know Genghis Khan as a destroyer, a killer, a monster. And yes, the scale of his violence was almost incomprehensible. But what most people never learn is where he came from. Because the story of how this one man, abandoned, enslaved, and left for dead, went on to conquer half the known world isn't just history. It is the ultimate study in resilience, strategy, and the terrifying power of a man with absolutely nothing left to lose. Let's get into it. A childhood forged in blood and betrayal, Genghis Khan was born around 1162, near the border of modern Mongolia and Siberia. His birth name was Temujin, named after a Tatar warlord his father had just defeated in battle. That name alone tells you everything about the world he was born into. Even at birth, he was surrounded by enemies. His father, Yassa, was a minor Mongol chieftain. When Temujin was just 9 years old, Yassa was poisoned by rival Tatars while returning from arranging his son's betrothal. He died on the road home. What happened next was a masterclass in the brutality of steppe politics. The clan that Yassa had led, the same men who had eaten at his table and fought under his banner, abandoned the entire family. They left Temujin's mother, Hoelun, alone on the steppe with 7 children and nothing but her survival instincts to keep them alive. The family survived by foraging roots, hunting rodents, and fishing in rivers. There was no safety net, no allies, no future. In this period of desperate poverty, Temujin killed his own older half-brother in a dispute over food. He was barely a teenager, but rather than breaking him, every single one of these horrors was quietly building something inside of Temujin. A rage, a clarity, and an iron understanding of one thing. Loyalty was everything, and betrayal had a price. Enslaved, the moment that changed everything. At around age 16, Temujin married Börte, a young woman from the conqueror tribe. Their marriage was more than romantic. It gave him his first taste of political legitimacy and a small but vital network of allies. But within months, disaster struck again. The Meritocracy tribe, who held a decades-old grudge against Temujin's family, launched a night raid on their camp. Temujin barely escaped into the darkness, but Börte was captured and taken as a trophy wife for a Meritocracy warlord. Temujin described his anguish in terms that survive to this day in the secret history of the Mongols, the oldest piece of Mongolian literature ever written. He said his bed had been made empty and his breast had been torn apart. Rather than accept the loss, Temujin did something extraordinary. He called in every favor, forged a military alliance with 2 powerful tribal leaders, and launched a daring rescue mission. He got Börte back. That rescue was Temujin's first real military operation. And it worked. Word spread across the steppe. This abandoned, penniless young man had gone to war for his wife, won, and come back. But his troubles were far from over. Around age 20, he was captured in a raid by former allies, the Taichiud clan, the very tribe that had abandoned his family after his father's death. This time, there was no alliance to call upon. He was enslaved, locked in a wooden Cangue, a portable wooden restraint worn around the neck. He was humiliated, paraded, owned. But even in chains, Temujin was planning. One night, using the cover of darkness and the help of a sympathetic guard named Sorkin Shira, he hid in a river crevice and escaped. He fled through the night and found shelter with a poor family who hid him under fleeces when his captors came searching. This moment of kindness from strangers, people with nothing, risking everything for him, made a permanent impression on Temujin that would later shape the way he governed an empire. The art of building an army from nothing. With his freedom back, Temujin began doing what no one on the Mongolian steppe had ever successfully done before, building an army based not on bloodline, but on loyalty and merit. Every other Mongol tribe organized itself around aristocracy and clan hierarchy. You were born into your rank. You could not rise above your birth. Temujin shattered this completely. He promoted men based purely on what they could do. A brilliant soldier from the lowest clan could become a general overnight under Temujin's command. The three men who helped him escape slavery, Sorkin Shira's son, Chilaun, and companions Jelme and Bo-Orchu, all became generals of the Mongol Empire, not because of their blood, because of their loyalty and ability. This was revolutionary, and word got out fast. Warriors across the steppe began flocking to his banner, not just from his own clan, from rival clans, from defeated tribes, from everywhere. Because Temujin offered something no one else could, a system where a man's worth was measured by what he did, not where he was born. Within years, he had assembled an army of over 20,000 men, then 80,000, then more. He employed communication tactics ahead of their time. Smoke signals, relay riders, coordinated flanking maneuvers that would not be seen again in military history for centuries. His army could move at a speed that left enemies paralyzed before they even understood they were being attacked. 1206. The slave becomes the Khan of Khans. By 1206, Temujin had done something no one in Mongolian history had ever achieved. He had unified every nomadic tribe of the Mongolian steppe under a single banner. At a great assembly of leaders called the Kurultai, he was proclaimed Genghis Khan, meaning universal ruler. The leading Mongol spiritual figure declared him the supreme ruler sent by the eternal sky god. The man who had been a slave was now the ruler of an empire that would, within decades, stretch from the Pacific Ocean to the borders of Eastern Europe. But what came next was not just destruction. Genghis Khan immediately enacted a legal code called the Yassa, one of the most progressive legal frameworks of the medieval world. It guaranteed religious freedom across the empire at a time when Europe was burning people at the stake for heresy. It abolished torture. It protected widows and orphans. It outlawed the kidnapping of women, the very crime that had nearly destroyed his own life. And critically, the Yassa applied equally to everyone, noble or commoner, Mongol or conquered foreigner. The law was the law. He also created the Yam, the world's first international postal relay system, allowing messages to travel thousands of miles in days, and enabling him to govern the largest land empire the world has ever seen. What the slave taught the world here is the statistic that stops people cold. In just 25 years, the Mongol army under Genghis Khan subjugated more land and more people than the Roman Empire had conquered in 400 years. At its peak, the Mongol Empire covered between 11 and 12 million square miles, roughly the size of the entire continent of Africa. And it was built by a man who started with nothing. No throne, no army, no wealth, no allies. Just a mind sharpened by suffering, a heart hardened by betrayal, and an absolute refusal to accept the life that the world had assigned to him. Historian Jack Weatherford, in his landmark book Genghis Khan and the Making of the Modern World, argues that Genghis Khan did more to shape the modern world than almost any other single figure, establishing free trade routes, diplomatic immunity for ambassadors, and the idea of meritocracy at a time when the rest of the world still believed your birthplace was your destiny. The boy who was abandoned on the steppe, the teenager who lost his wife in the night, the young man locked in a slave collar. He died in 1227, and his final resting place remains unknown to this day, just as he ordered. No monument, no tomb, no statue, just an empire that reshaped the world. Most people study history to understand the past, But the story of Genghis Khan teaches something more uncomfortable than that. It teaches that the people the world discards, the abandoned, the enslaved, the left for dead, are sometimes the most dangerous people who ever lived. Not because of what was given to them, because of what was taken away. Genghis Khan didn't conquer the world, despite his suffering. He conquered the world because of it. Every betrayal became a lesson. Every loss became fuel. Every humiliation became ammunition. And when he finally had power, he built a world where the things that had been used to destroy him, poverty, low birth, powerlessness, could never again determine a man's fate. If you found this powerful, subscribe and drop a comment. What moment in Genghis Khan's life do you think changed everything? See you in the next one.